check, check. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's so low. You can hear that, right? Check, check, check. You can barely hear it? Yep, I do too, but it's so low. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we may need to bring in a mixer so that way we can boost it up because that is so low, right? Hold on, let me see what else I can do. Can I add more on? How about that? Does that help out any better? Does that make it? No, that didn't do anything. Okay, I'm going to turn that off then. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Or, mm, yeah, I think because it's a yeah, I think we're just gonna have to bring the Shore mixer. Do you know what that is? Have you seen it? It will be in the back area. Yeah. It's yeah, it's kind of big, but it's flat and long. All right, I'm gonna also let me see. I'm gonna. Do you see a camera too? So that's the wide camera right now. Oh no, it should be a.
I'm not. I'm talking now. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm talking. Hello. Testing. I can. I moved the microphone closer to my mouth. Should I? Testing. Testing. Hello. One, two, three, four, five. This is also me holding it up to my mouth, though. Okay. Um. Testing. 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 One, two, three, four, five. Check. Checking. Testing. Okay.
peace and quiet and open air waits for us somewhere. There's gonna be a time for us someday, a time for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there.
the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The Greater Newburyport Ovarian Cancer Awareness Organization welcomes you to join in the 12th Annual Newburyport Lantern Festival on Sunday, September 4th at 5:30 p.m. We remember families and friends by participating in sending water lanterns to float on the Bartlett Mall. This is an Asian tradition to decorate paper lanterns with calligraphy of wishes or messages to our loved ones. Witness this beautiful night with the flickering lanterns on the mall. This event is free. Donations can be made to support Ovations for the Cure. Parking around the Bartlett Mall is limited, so please arrive early to find parking. Biking and carpooling is great too. Come show love and support to friends and family affected by ovarian cancer on Sunday, September 4th at 5:30 p.m. for the 12th Annual Lantern Festival.
Come on, baby.
unusual moment. Can I hold that?
This can go right, yeah.
I hold this.
Do you need a longer one?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, this is very.
And then, so you can move
Yeah,
the
show
slides
me how
forward
to-
on this if you want, or you can use the clicker. This also has a, I'll show you in a minute.
I don't really need this. Can I get rid of this white thing?
Let's go to,
Go back up.
we're gonna start here.
There we go.
We're gonna go to start slideshow from beginning. We're just gonna test it and make sure it comes up on here. Make sure everything gets rolling. Okay. Let's close this out and start it up again.
I'll tell you when it comes up.
Amazing, isn't it, Stephanie? Awesome to put all this together. Look at me.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna need to. Okay, what is going on? Yeah, I restarted it. The lamps are turned on. We're gonna act this out. I'll be the fountain.
Are we done yet?
You liven up the group with this kind of a. Thanks. It's all anxiety.
Evan Latham, and you're listening to Joppa Radio 96.3 FM, WJOP LP, Newburyport.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey.
One time they went. So everything's working with the bulb.
WJOP-LP Newburyport 96.3. Hope you're all doing well out there. Don't forget, you can catch my show, Afternoon Drive, live new shows every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Then we're going to replay this thing for you. You get another shot Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Get up, have a cup of coffee, all that stuff. Enjoy the show. I'll see you there.
Sarah? Testing? Can you hear me? I'm just testing something for Sarah. Hopefully. Huh? Stand regularly. Can you hear me? Normally? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Me? I don't think it can. My amp's not on or anything.
The slideshow's going.
There's a key up here that lets you switch to the F6 or something. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Try that.
Oh, hold on.
Is it working?
It's not reading the HDMI.
F8, right?
It's the F6. We already did it. It's right there. See?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I want. you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being patient. I promise you, first thing in the morning, we will own 27 bulbs. I am absolutely thrilled that you're all here. I'm especially thrilled that our friend Charles, oh God. What just happened? The second worst thing, I almost just called you Charles Griffin.
There you go. There's a lot of Charleses tonight.
Good old Charles. Okay, well, before we get to that, my name is Bethany Groff-Durow. I'm reasonably sure of that. I'm the executive director, at least I was until tonight, of the Museum of Old Newbury, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this event. Thank you to all of you for attending the program, and especially to our members and supporters. We really appreciate all of your support. I would like you to invite you to join us as a member, if you haven't already, at newburyhistory.org. You're also hopefully all getting the newsletter. You'll get a fabulous one on Friday. And actually, Charles, who I know is Chuck, Griffin, and I have also been working on some articles about the Mall, so there's more information in there about this topic as well. A few quick housekeeping notes. Please mute your cell phone if you have one. And please let Chuck know if you can't hear him in the back row. He has promised to have a deep, booming voice throughout the event if needed. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Charles Griffin, who is a great friend of the museum and also a great friend of mine. And this is where I need bigger type. Charles and Julian Griffin have owned and operated the old jail property since 1987. Charles, a retired architect, founded the architectural design and planning firm EGA in 1966, even though he's, oh, sorry. I have to move into the microphone region. Oh, there's light over here. And in the past 5 years, Chuck has become increasingly concerned about the deterioration of his neighbor, the Bartlett Mall. Tonight, he's excited to tell you more about this beloved trade landmark and hope that you too will fall in love with this beautiful object and healthful resort, in the words of Charles Eliot. And with that, I'm going to go turn some lights off so you can see this. This is forward, this is back,
Oh,
this is the laser pointer.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
I'll get my phone over here.
Well, thank you for coming. It's a real honor to be here. It's particularly to have almost everybody stay for all this time. Amazing. I hope it's worth it. You're going to kill some lights because the screen is...
Yes, I am.
There we go. That's much better. I'm going to have a bit of... Normally I speak to a monitor, but I can't because it's there. We have a short cord, so I'm going to be looking at this instead of you, but I can't see you anyhow, so what difference is it? So in any case...
Oh, sorry.
Last call.
Are we done now?
I'm done with technology.
Yes.
For that day.
So I was here 3 years ago for your annual meeting talking about Bartlett Mall. And so these were the headings. So the agenda at that time has been shortened for tonight, you'll be glad to know. But Bethany did ask me to go over some of the history of Newburyport and Bartlett Mall for anybody in the room that doesn't know it. I've cut it by over half, and compared to the material that we have available to us, this is maybe 20% of the total. So tonight, this is the heading. There's just 3 headings, and the first 2 are similar, and the last one is where we are now, because there's a lot that's happened since I was here 3 years ago, and I hope you agree it's to the better. So going back into the history, in May of 1635, the settlers first came here, and someone, if I'm too loud, tell me. I have tinnitus, so it's hard for me to ever know where I am with the volume.
It's fine.
You can go up or down, or just tell me. Okay. 1635, they came to the Parker River, about this area. They landed their boats. They came up here from Ipswich to found this area, and the whole idea was to get here before the cussed French came down from Canada and grabbed this area first. And Coffin, our wonderful historian, one of them, has this drawing that he did in Newbury 1640, so he's projecting that this is just after they were here. Of course, they came up around the back of Plum Island into the Parker River, and at this point, the road, the landing site that I just showed you is here. That's where the bridge is on the Parker. If you look at these sites, what's shown is Ferry Landing, because that was needed right away. People needed to get across the Merrimack. And of course, the Pierce the Spencer, which is now Spencer Pierce Little Estate, which is here, still exists. And Watts Cellar, which was down here, which we don't have. And but Frog Pond is shown. Is it me or is it?
No.
Okay.
It's not real.
You're making a big assumption. So, to me, the magical thing about this is if you came here, if you're an Indian that was here before the English settlers came or the first Europeans, this is one of the few places you can go to that still looks very similar to what it did at that time. The rest are gone, except for the Spencer lands. So to me, that makes it a precious place. And of course, both the courthouse and the mile are on the National Register. And then they moved, 19 years later, they get the idea that, oh boy, this land out in the Parker isn't as good as it could be. A lot of us can't raise enough cattle or sheep to make a go of it. So we need to move up here. They didn't come here for fishing or boat building, but they came to this part. There's more land involved. And I think it's intriguing that they picked this particular place. Why would you pick this one place when you have a high road and the water virtually parallel? I'm convinced it had something to do with Frog Pond, and it's in their maps. All the maps always show Frog Pond, and then directly down what became our waterfront. And then Newburyport, of course, split off from Newbury in 1764, and at the time it was this size. It was a small place. Originally about a square mile in land. The first plans we have, there's a survey of 1766, and High Street's up here, the rope walk's here, and windmill is here, Frog Pond, graveyard, and houses along this area. I'm not going to go into that. There isn't enough time tonight. But the industrial commons, which you could spend days talking about, had all these different elements and was a big part of Newburyport's wealth in the beginning. Of course, the rope walk is obvious for shipbuilding, etc. But they had a full-blown windmill. You can still see the grindstone from that if you're up on the mall. And then a few years later, we have this first perspective of the water side. 1774, this etching was made. You can still today go up into the graveyard that overlooks the, here's State Street, that overlooks the water and the city, and see this view if it wasn't for the trees. And here it does talk about the townhouse. They didn't put it in, so it's here. That's A. A is there. John. So the first person to try to beautify this place was Nathaniel Tracy, and he was given permission to plant trees where the rope walk used to be on High Street, and that was 1779. This is what he looked like. You know, the house he lives in. I didn't have a good picture of it. I grabbed this, but it's the library, the old part of the library. It's the Tracy Mansion. So if you look, he lived a very short life. It was a sad situation. He had a silver gold spoon in his mouth, very wealthy family, and he was successful. And he planted trees when he was 28 years old, if you do the math, and he died when he was 45. Another wealthy man at the time, William Bartlett, and these are his dates, and he lived in the Bartlett House at 19 Federal Street. There's trees in front of it, hard to get a good picture of it now. His son is Edwin Bartlett, after whom the mall is named. And why is it named? Well, he gave $1,400 at this time. Can you imagine, at $1,400 to fill an unsightly gully? And after he did it and the work was done, he went to the city council and said, gee, I'd like to be paid, reimbursed. And this city council.
We'll name it after you.
Yeah, exactly, we'll name it after you. And the Herald, this is only partly, anyhow, published article talking about how advantageous it would be. For some reason this slide is not there. And then the next big event is that you had, at the time we had a traveling court. So justice and largesse, roads, everything was controlled by a traveling court in the Court of General Sessions. And they would come around. It was a big event at the time. Ladies would dress up when the Court of General Sessions was in Newburyport, for example. And they say to the townsmen of Newburyport, we need a place when we come here, not a house, to be able to do what we do. And the city of Newburyport said, boy, we need to have a meeting place for our town. And so they proposed Pleasant Street, but the court said, no, we're not really interested in Pleasant Street. We want to go up to Green Street because the city, through Tracy and Bartlett, had made it beautiful at that time, had started making it beautiful. And when they needed an architect, they chose the head selectman of Boston, also the chief of police of Boston, which was Charles Bulfinch, architect. This is Bulfinch. Is a young man. This is his second cousin, his wife. She was the daughter of the richest man in Boston. And at the time he did this building, he was going through a terrible time in that he had done a development of a dozen upscale houses in Boston and went bankrupt. He took his father's money, his in-laws' money with him, and he had to move into a small house. So she went from abundance to living in a small house with another family. And she had married Charles Bulfinch, of course, a tremendous talent. He'd gone to Europe and did the grand tour. He came back, and this was built in 1789, our State House in Boston. He was 25 years old when it was built. But the amazing thing was he designed it 2 to 3 years earlier. He was only 22 or 23 when he proposed this and got it accepted. If you think about that, this is the State House. It shows the kind of talent and persona he had. When he came up to do our job in 1804, he was the same year he was building Faneuil Hall, which I'm sure you're all familiar with in Boston. It was a little tiny building. He made it 3 times as wide. Out of a story, it's 10 times larger than it used to be. And the gate, the doorways, that's the oldest picture I was able to find, the arches down below. So for us, this is not what you see today when you look at our courthouse, but it's what I think was there. And I'll show you why in a minute. But this is the Essex County Courthouse, built in 1804. Bulfinch was 40 years old at the time. Now, why do I think it looked like this? Excuse me, that has to come in a minute. So there's more on that a little bit later. And I'm going to do that to you 4 times. That was the first. We'll get back to it because I have to go back and forth in time and it'll take you out of these old images. So the next event isn't on the property itself, but across the street to the land my wife and I own, the Essex County Jail. And this is Stewart Park. Amazingly, we have a picture of him. Just before he died, he wrote his story of his life. And I found these drawings, both floor plans and the elevations, mislabeled as the Salem Jail, but that's the Essex County. This is, Newburyport Jail. In his hand. And I have his original handwriting, and you can see it's the same print. All through this, it's astounding, I think, how we have just the perfect documents. We're almost never short of having a document. And the other thing that's so remarkable is that Henry Coy Perkins walks out in a school that he's attended, that's the South School in Bartlett Mall, puts up a camera same year that the daguerreotype process was released in Paris, and it came over, the process was published in London, it came over on the ship Polly to New York City and then got up here somehow, and he had already designed his own lenses to make a camera, to make a telescope. And he used those lenses and put them in a box, sealed it up, took copper plates, put silver on it, and treated the plates and made the oldest pictures taken in America that we can prove. Now, we can't prove, there's some debate, but we know it's at least the oldest landscape photos. And they're owned here by Moon. This organization owns them. They're kept at a bank vault downtown. They are priceless, virtually. They're the oldest photographs that we have in the Americas, taken in the Americas. And happens to be of this property. This is Bartlett Mall in the foreground. And you can see there's not a tree here. So you can see how early this is. And all these pictures that Perkins took, there's almost no trees. When you look out across Newburyport, it's just as bare as it can be. This is the man. He's buried here in our cemetery, the Old Town Cemetery. These are his dates. Besides taking photographs, he was a scientist and he was a physician. He was the head of Massachusetts Medical Association. Very powerful, very intelligent man. And his uncle was the man that was developing the steel engraving plates. So the brick building that you've developed out back that has all that history in it, these people are related. And that's one reason he knew what he knew. He had the right uncle. This is another example. I lied, you can see some trees here, but not many. So here's October 1839, October 30th, of this image. Think about that. You know, think how far this head of the Civil War this is, which is 1865. We think of those as being old photographs. This is 1839, and you have the pictures in Newburyport. Highly unusual. Another image that I'm afraid is not dated, but it's an engineer's drawing. And here's the courthouse. So High Street's up here at the top. I put some labels on it. Greenleaf. I'm guessing it's Civil War, 1860. That's just a guess. Potash House over here, that was used to make gunpowder. The school is still in existence, so we have some idea of date because of that. And then there's a portion of the property that you'll learn more about that was private, that was part of the Bartlett Mall all through this period. I find this interesting because you may not be able to see it from back, but there's a black line here that deviates and has points, and the trees are located, and that deviation is, I'm sure, is the top of the hill where this is supposed to be. So what he's done, he's taken a French curve to get that beautiful slope, and if you go out and look at it, you see that it's a beautiful curve. And then he has gone in and he's telling the people, no, here's where you need to be. I mean, it's been checked. These people were, when they worked on this, these were not sloppy or uneducated. This is a rare picture because the date is known. Written on the back of this image that Mosley took, he's written 1867 on the back. Very rare for that. Almost none of these old photographs are dated, but this one is. So you see the jail, the granite walls have been whitewashed, the new chimneys are up. This school is still there that's shown on that previous image. And of course, here's the courthouse. You can see a little dab. Today, this line of earth is clear out here. But you can see how far back it was at the time. But some dirt's around here. So this is dated. People are ice skating. Another picture from taken before 1871. Again, we don't know an exact date, but you can see they're trying to keep these fences. Some people have said to me, oh, that was to keep the sheep on the hillside to mow the lawn. The opposite is true. If you've known anything about sheep on slopes, their hoofs would tear up the slope in a minute. This is to keep sheep off of the grass. They actually mowed the grass with a scythe. And out here, this shows the slope. But early again, because the schoolhouse is here, and I'm convinced that the photograph taken of the jail was from there, from that point out across. That still has to be proved up, but we have some trees in the way. This is Washington statue gets dedicated here. This is very early, and I don't think it gets the credit in our community that it deserves. This statue was done by one of the foremost sculptors of his day. dedicated in 1879, and so it gives us an idea because we know these buildings were torn down about 1881, so it does bracket it. But look at, here's High Street, here's Bond Street. Look how none of this is paved. It's just gravel or dirt or whatever. This is the man that gave the sculpture. He gave it 2 years before he died. John, and the sculptor is John Quincy Adams Ward, who's fairly patriotic. And he did, that sculptor did 22 public sculptures. This one in New York City at Federal Hall, this is a Washington, different than ours. All of them are unique. The statues up there is not like the Civil War statues that you'll see the man with the musket that they made hundreds of. This is, everyone, that's a unique sculpture award. Here's another Washington, different position, 1882. This sculpture up here, Ward did that, the New York Stock Exchange. And many, many other, if I had the list, you would know many of the sculptures. So now we get up to 1881, and Bethany helped me find a document on when this land changed hands. There is a plat that's undated, but she found a written record last week, 3 days ago or something, in the record of the exchange date, and 3 or 4 of Newburyport's wealthy and generous citizens bought that property and gave it to the city to expand the mall. You can see here the fence. I've wanted to go back and see if that huge beech tree that's there is one of these. Haven't checked that out yet. So anyhow, this Herald says, and at the time that was occurring, a part of it was a dump, and the people across the street were suing the town. And the Herald comes out in 1881, and of course says this, and I'm told to read it. And the improvements that could be made at no great expense would make this one of the most beautiful ornaments which are enjoyed by any city in the country. And I think in its heyday it was, and I think we can get it back to that. You know who this man is, I assume, since you're interested in history. Olmsted, very famous for working all over the United States, and he was really the father of landscape architecture. He almost invented the term. And at the same time, another man was living, Charles William Eliot, and he was the president of Harvard for 40 years, and he was the most important president of Harvard. He's the one that came along and said that the universities and schools needed to have sciences in the curriculum. And that was the Eliot principle, and it even went down into the high schools and grade schools when mathematics should be taught. All that is Eliot, most famous, and I think anybody that knows Harvard would say the most important president Harvard's ever had. So he wrote, when his son died, get to that in a second, he wrote a 1,000-page book about his son. And in that is Newburyport and the work his son did there, that I'll get to in a minute. But he says in that, but the reservation as a whole, meaning the Bartlett Mall as a whole, from being an eyesore and a nuisance, has become a beautiful object and a healthful resort for people of the city. And Bethany saw that, and that's the title of our, part of the title of our time tonight. This is his son, who also did a grand tour of Europe, and he started out working for Olmsted. He went to Harvard, then he worked for Olmsted for a short period, 2 years, and Olmsted, go off to Europe, young man, and learn something. So he did the grand tour. He went clear to Russia. He went all over about a year and a half, came back and started his own landscape architecture company. He had a relative here in Newburyport. He came up and saw her and found out about this problem, and a nonprofit group of citizens that wanted to fix it, and became their landscape architect. And he did 3 projects, and then Olmsted came and said, come down and help me. I'm old, I'm faint, help me. And he became Olmsted's partner. And then sadly, he died 4 years later. But he had a tremendous impact on the firm. He wrote an 8-page letter that we have here that was all discovered about, 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And in the first letter it said, you're determined that your ancient commons, remember he's writing this in 1887, your ancient commons, what is it today therefore, shall be made more attractive and useful. And he brought with him this plan. So he has some of the trees shown, and he's proposing a walk over here, the broad walk, the connector, the connection here, promenade, proposed a playground. This is his first scheme, 1887. And in the letter, he goes on to say, to improve the condition of the mile and pond with the grounds adjoining, which for many years have been neglected, that no son of Newburyport can look on them without a feeling of disappointment and mortification. You can see what bad shape it was at that time. He probably used slightly different language here about the sons, but I think you know what he meant. And then the Mile Improvement Association of that time was trying to raise money to fix this problem. And in a fundraiser, part of it says this place has very striking and natural advantages. It is high, central, and without great expense, it can be made exceedingly attractive and ornamental. Yay! And then 2 years later, believe it or not, the mayor wouldn't accept the fact of a nonprofit that wasn't city-owned fixing the mall. So for 2 years, he was in office and kept saying, no, you can't fix it, it's ours, it's public property, who are you anyway? Finally, they got him out of office, and he saw reason, or he didn't, the new mayor did. And we have this drawing here, which was just discovered, that in all the different things I've looked at, no one knew that this existed. But this is a more recent one, May of '89, when they were doing the work. Most of the work that was done that moved gravel and did all these different things was done in '89. We have some of that communication. We have his business card. Moon has all this material. It's really priceless. And then they wrote a report that runs, 15 pages, describing everything they did, and printed it. And it comes down to us. And it's very telling, about Greenleaf Street, and how there's a big bout of earth there, and they spent money hauling all that off, so you can stand at Greenleaf today and look up at the high hill where the cemetery is and know that was done in all likelihood in 1889. Now we are 2 years later. Again, this is rare because the photographer etched right into the negative, right into the drawing we have, the date, and it's May 14th, 91. But here you can see the work that went into it. Remember, they're using oxen, they're using mostly horses and drags and people, and using manure and all the things you'd use in clay. But they created this flat area that runs level around the park, and they let the swale or the hill from Greenleaf go up and go down. So when you stand over on High Street, I'd encourage you to look across at that. It is really gorgeous, the beauty of the landforms. I think it's the primary thing that Bartlett Mall has: water, landforms, and gravel walks. Doesn't need anything more. Just looking straight down. At the time, there's a cobble. They put cobbles along here to slow the water down. They took great care of these kinds of things, and that's enough. We'll get more of this item 2 later. And then 91, you can see the trees were planted. Now these had to be planted before Charles Eliot came. Obviously, that's more than 3 years of growth. But what he was doing is trimming these high. His goal was, as you look in a park, that you should be able to look clear through the park, a distant view. It was always about distant views. And no flowers and no fussy little edges. This, if you want that, we have it in Newburyport, of course, at Atkinson. That's our Victorian garden. There's where the flowers are. But that's where we also spend our time as a parks department. These things, once done, once fixed, are pretty low maintenance. And then Mosley came along in '92, a very wealthy man. He was the president of 2 banks in Newburyport and a big friend of the Bartlett Mall. He gave the fountain. This is a picture of him that we have in our library. And we know he gave the fountain. I think he likely paid for that training field or the area that was added on that I said some wealthy businessmen gifted. And he gave money to the MIA and to the Newburyport Library. That's all been done, all done by Mosley. Well, there's some other people that help with the library, but the major part of it was Mosley. So then we have this hill, which has never been handled properly. This is Kelly's School. You can see the edge of it here. This is that little house that's next to Kelly's School with the black foundation. Yeah. But you see the drive came down here. And this is just a piece of this photograph. I've just enlarged it. And I counted, I can count 23 people in this picture. I mean, this was a very, very popular place, and a lot of postcards. If you go through postcards in Newburyport, you really can't see very many before you have Newburyport, because it was such a beautiful, popular place. More on this later. And then the promenade. And that's part of what I'll show you later, but this is actually a photograph. Here's the front of the courthouse. Here's the trees. And they were damaged at the time that Charles Eliot was here. He talks about an ice storm, but he said, don't give up on them. They'll come out of it. And then Taggart gave his fountain. This is on a postcard, 1910. This is fascinating because he has a place down at the bottom for a cat or a dog to drink. Then he has places here for horses. Then he has a place here for humans. So he took care of all the mammals with this one. So we're through that. We'll go quicker now. So where we're trending after that work of Charles Eliot and the people, as time went on, the trees weren't pruned, and then volunteer trees came in. Okay, some of these are kind of falling apart. I wonder why. But the next benefactor we had is a man named Arthur Shercliffe, who was also a very well-known landscape architect, maybe the premier one in the United States, and his dates. And he worked for Olmsted. And he did Colonial Williamsburg. You've probably heard of that place. He did Old Sturbridge Village. He did Charles River Esplanade, the Crane Estate, Back Bay, the Fenway, Route 128 layout. And he started the School of Landscape Architecture at Harvard, along with Charles Eliot's father, Charles Eliot, same name. He looked like that, Arthur Shercliffe. And when he was 24 years old, in May of 1894, he was working for his papa, and he'd been doing it about 4 years in his dad's business, and going out of his mind, he wanted to do landscape architecture. He wanted to be outside. He'd seen the work of Olmsted and others, and he wrote a letter, which is out of focus here now, but dear sir, it'd be of great kindness if you'd allow me to call upon you and give me your advice and understanding what course I could take in landscape gardening, which is typically what it was called back then, landscape gardening. And respectfully, Arthur Shercliffe. And gives his address. Well, Olmsted did help him. And what did he do? He turned him over to Charles Eliot, and for those times he spent with Eliot, which was only about a year and a half, I believe, became a big fan of Eliot's skills and was always promoting that. This one thing I'll read to you, just because it's in front of our city council right now, whether or not to follow the CPC's funding of Bartlett Mall for about another $2.6 million. It's a 15-year bond. We raised $3 million by bond to give to the waterfront park. And in my mind, you've got the barbell with the waterfront park down here and Bartlett Mall above here. So we're in the last stages of getting this all approved. But here he's talking about dollars and cents. The common has an economic value to Newburyport. In dollars and cents, it's a money bringer, and it gives distinct character to Newburyport, which assists in holding the value of a group of citizens and in bringing in intelligent visitors. Right?
Yep.
You agree? We should not think of the maintenance of the common as an extravagance, but rather as an economic asset. To keep this asset to the full, the common should be regarded as the colonial record and should be safeguarded against decoration, no flowers, folks, or embellishment as a modern park would be. A degree of plainness amounting to austerity is essential to this early character, but an appearance of dilapidation or neglect is, of course, a liability. I think you couldn't say it any better than he said it back in 1935. This is his drawing. You'll see this hanging outside the mayor's office in that antechamber. Shercliffe's plan. He came here twice to try to save us and worked on it. He did the ball that's in front, the cannonball that's mounted there. He did some other things. So twice. And then this will come back and I'll be talking to you about that later. So this is Eliot's plan, and then this is what Eliot said about the same era. Along Pond Street, where there are now some large trees here, I propose that a new boardwalk be built, not so broad as the one on High Street, but combined, so as to join the High Street walk with its eastern end. So he wrote that to the city. He didn't get that. He wasn't able to. And then we jump to the next period of time. We had a City Improvement Society. And I got this information from Les Ferrazzo, who's your treasurer here in Moon. And he had a whole packet of material I was able to go through and find this. This is when they raised the money to save all the elm trees all the way along High Street, on both sides of High Street, all the elms. And one was done professionally. The rest of the money was given to the city crews who didn't do it right, and all the trees died but the one that's there. Really sad. But it talks about that process. And I didn't print all this up, but Mayor Matthews, we're missing quite a bit on the edge of this, but it's fine. Mayor Matthews wanted the courthouse to be revised, and it's over here. Something's happening with that. Next group is 1999. We had Walker Hunsling Design Group. She's at Harvard. They come. This picture's from 1900 roughly, and these are. I guess it just gives me what it wants to. Anyhow, in their report, it said what we're trying to do is bring back Charles Eliot's plan. So everybody of any substance that came, everybody but one actually, anybody that's touched this, that's looked at the record, that understands, is wanting to get us back to Eliot 1900. And that came in too high, and then the scope of the project was reduced, and we got the Cecil group came in, and from my view, except for they got the trees up here for the now, a lot of this, I don't think they looked at any history with any of it, did their own thing. But at this time, Nick Cracknell is in the back of the room. Hi, Nick. And Jordy Viney said we need to have a group stay involved with this and take care of this place going forward. So they were the next caretakers. Then we have the Bartlett Mall Association. And that followed that work. So it went from around 2005 to when the Parks Commission was changed fairly recently, around 2019. I didn't take the time to look it up, but about that period of time. And these lovely ladies, some of which are in the audience, were running the show. And when I came along saying, I wish things were done differently, to their credit, they all said, we love what it used to be, we'll support that. Without that switch, we wouldn't be here tonight. Mrs. Eigerman, thank you. So after around 2015, we lost the corporate memory, which we do all the time in this town, in Bartlett Mall at least. We were planting without a plan. Slopes weren't mown for a reason. They thought it would help the water. Trees weren't pruned. Walkways were not adequate for vehicles, and memorials were allowed. These are all things that are now under attack to try to change. This is the day I became agitated about it, when these excellent volunteers did beautiful planting of 5 cherry trees. I asked them, why do you put them here? And they said, because we think, you know, it's a good place, there's space here. And I said, well, there's a kid slide down here in the winter and stuff. So there wasn't a plan. Nothing wrong with the volunteers, they were incredible. But, and you can see here, to be able to remove, believe it or not, the dog poo bags, the Parks Department felt it was important to drive big trucks all around this place. And so here comes the trucks on this little road, and just cut it to pieces to pick up a little bag. And the first thing I got done as commissioner is to say, keep your trucks on the edge of town and get out of the pickup and walk down the hill and pull that bag out and put it in the back. Got that done. This is what it did. Half the time these people couldn't drive a truck. I mean, they didn't know where the tires were. You just cut the hillside terribly. This is a steep slope, and if you know anything about land and slopes and water, this is not a good thing to undercut a hill. So far it hasn't eroded. It also shows the problem that we have here with the pond. So we started educating. It's Jeff Briggs, the sculptor, helping me. I provided the artwork, he put up the signs. You know, you've probably seen them there. They're still there. Some are falling apart. And the message has to change. And then a great day when I got a call from this organization, and Susan Edwards and Sharon Spieldener had found this load of all these documents and plans, and it was just a fabulous day here at Moon. That what this organization has is astounding. So in 2017, we were able to get through the technical acceptance by the Bartlett Mall Association that we would follow these years. We'd get an agreement on the next step. We'd get the Bartlett Mall Association, the Parks Commission going in the same direction. We'd get it back to what it was around 1900. You've seen the pictures. And preserve as much of that that's valuable. Some of it will have to be adapted to modern times. I don't think I need to read all that. But anyhow, permanently fix the corporate memory, research what was and what happened to it, analyze existing conditions, establish rules for the Mall's form, establish priorities, gain consensus, secure funding. We're clear to here, and we've secured a lot of funding. And what we haven't done is looking forward. The parks are always in need of maintenance. When this all gets done, there has to be money brought in to fund it and get it properly done. And then we need to protect the corporate memory. We need to get on and show you later my ideas on that. And thank you, Andrea Eigerman. Here's the first Bartlett Mall Day, her idea. And stand up. So you need to let people know. Stand up. So this was Andrea's idea. She turned on a dime, as I said, with what should be done, and created this a very first day, very first time. We've had 2.5 of these. since, we would have had more, except for COVID. And then the same year, I was complaining about the fact we had planted daffodils and we had taken a front end loader and cut into these steep slopes, and the earth was moving, all these slopes were moving. And same year, we started repairing them. The next year, we got this mown twice in 1 year. For the first time in a long time, we got the slopes mown. And because the science behind it said it wasn't slowing the water down or helping the water quality of Frog Pond. Before it was thought it was, in all fairness. And then these trees were pruned. They hadn't never been pruned since they were planted. These are Chinese elms, and they just formed spheres, and they have all these suckers. And so we took about a third of the limbs out of them. 2017. I wish we'd done it twice more, but it's still going to be hard to ever get them to grow vertically. And then there's a new parks ordinance came along, and again, Jared Eigerman, I was spearheaded that, and now we have a group, there's 5 of us that runs the Parks Department, and 2 of us are assigned to a particular park. I'm assigned to Bartlett Mall, and other architects assigned to Atkinson Common. So these goals. So now we're to the last thing. That's history. Now you're up to where we are. So if we go back to the Essex County Courthouse, and we look at that, and in my opinion of what it was, where's the opinion come from? This is what they did. We have the paper record that there had been a place here where they slaughtered, they were selling meat. And they put the offal, the scraps were out on the ground. You can imagine smelling and everything. City Father said, get that out of there. Within the next 3 months, we got that out of there. We're going to have a market house. So they designed a 1-story building. Then they had the brainstorm. If they got rid of their share of the courthouse, they owned half of it. We could get the county to buy that half. They had the money to do the whole thing. What a deal. We don't lose the courthouse, and we get to have a market house. And of course, it's what we call a firehouse. There's so much on this, there's a separate talk on this in any case. And amazingly, we have, down at the Maritime Museum, the justice that used to stand on the pediment of it, done by a Newburyport sculptor. That still exists. It's been restored. So it was there, at least from 1804 to 1854. Jeff Briggs argues it couldn't be because it's pine, so it was probably changed over time, but it went through difficult times. But the reason we know so much about it, this is my wife, Jillian, is that the only bullfinch building that I know of that we have all the drawings for, all the working drawings, are of this courthouse, which is, again, I think, incredibly fortunate. The only project. The ones at Washington, D.C., the Congress, the Capitol building, yes, we have those. So down there we have 11 drawings, all done by Bullfinch in his own hand. He was coming home at night, having devastated his family's finances, and drawing this building. This is a vertical section through the building, as you can tell, courtroom up above. It had an arcade here in front, showing, amazingly, it's all still there. It just was filled in that space grab. These rooms are the same, the basement's the same, and down here he's indicating water at this point. If you look at the building, here's the backside facing the pond. It has what's called string courses in marble. You can see that they've come in and put infill brick. And here there's an opening. So if you stand and really look at the courthouse, you see that it's been modified greatly. How am I going to do it? Let's see. It's supposed to be able to. Bethany, you know how I can get this to do that?
I sure can try. What are you trying to do?
It's a movie.
Oh, hold on. I got it. I'm on it.
Does this thing do a movie?
It should if you click on it again, but I know
It's never been shown before. So I think
I can make it out.
there we go. This is what we have. This is they built in the town. This is what Bullfinch did. This is the way it looked when it was new. Per the drawings, Bullfinch still what we had when it was modernized in 1854. Bullfinch. Which do you think is superior? So we could get this again because the brick is still there. This is the only remodeling I know of that the fabric is still there. This involves removing the brick that's in these arches. I mean, this isn't, we're not even having to go, so we have to redo the heads, put some marble back in, put the string horses back on, the trims, and put a hip roof back on it. I think this could all be done, and it's likely it could be done with federal money, but that's a subject for another day. Frog Pond, which is an issue that's in front of the City Council next month. It has, as I mentioned, has a CPC grant, 2.6 million. So the idea is to get this back, with one exception. The city did not want to dedicate the money or the filling this with city water, and the proposal is to take this out. It's heavily polluted, it's unsafe, it's stagnant. You have 2 acres of stagnant water in the heart of our town, and it's got the same poison toxin in it that we, 2 years ago, we couldn't drink the water, if you remember. We got that same toxin here. This has to be taken care of. So the idea is, my sketch again, it took the liberty of showing Bullfinch's building. Since I'm paying for it, tough. And around the edge, I think it should have a granite edge, and on the granite edge, some of the stones could have etched into the surface so it's not forgotten what the history of this project is, what the history, what the major players were. Could even be the whole story of Newburyport if you wanted, etched into granite. So it would not be forgotten. It's what we have today. 5 years ago, but when water gets high, you saw that earlier picture. You know, this is the same slope from the other direction. This is the slope against Pond Street. This is coming around the other way. I did get this moved, but this condition is still here. And we have the money to restore this. CPC gave us $126,000, which we've kept our grubby little hands on. And we have a price from Cassidy Brothers down in Raleigh, who is nationally known, to remove, repair, put a tremendous finish on this that the U.S. Navy uses, and put it back in position. We have the money for that. This would be the pattern of the pond and the granite pattern. Up here we want to be able to have skiffs load and put boats out on this, because now if we get this pollution out of here and get it sealed with a membrane and covered, we can now boat on it again. We can now enjoy this again. And here you can see over here, I've got this indicating that's the Pond Street of Lee. This is the change up here with a new drive, restoring the drive and putting a new park and extending the promenade clear through toward what used to be Kelly School, which is now the condominium. This doesn't show the whole image.
I do what I can, man.
Yeah, I know. Anyhow, you said ordinarily a curved pond, a pond of a public park, uses a town water supply and has an overflow to keep it at one level and an overflow gate. That's what he learned on his travels through Europe. I took this from the front of the jail, believe it or not, clear across Bartlett Mall. And there's children, this little boy had been clear up above his waist. This boy was in real deep. Dad was up here watching. So we still have children that play in this. When I go over there and there's a class outing or something, I always run over and try to remind the parents, you can't let your kids go in that water. They're going to have sores on them. So it's a hazard. So they had that. And we have that and that. The difference, you can look at Bartlett Mall and say, oh, isn't it lovely? Yes, what's left of it? It's still beautiful. It has good bones, but it's in tough shape. So stagnant, I've made these points, there is a drainage system after some of the great fires. They put a drain underneath High Street. It comes down and runs here. And there's big catch basins at each of these places, and it flows and goes down to the factories by the Merrimack. And we think we could use some of that system to get the water out of Frog Pond and make it overflow, and it'll go into the Merrimack because it's fine. What's the problems of that water are less polluted than the Merrimack is. It would actually clean the Merrimack if you did it at the right moment in time. So the playground and the promenade and the road, here's that roadway. We're on the last one. That's the view today. Same view. Sobering. Now, most of us in this room will never live to see it, even if we get this fixed. But we're going to take these stairs out of here. We're going to put all this in. We're going to get these rocks out of here, grade this up properly, and plant it. And someday, our heirs will have that, tree-wise. But a lot of this we can have in the near term. That's my drawing of how that could feel. This is not up to date for that, but and then the promenade, getting the promenade clear through, which it now stops here. So we had that when I was starting in 2017, and one of the local developers gifted getting rid of a lot of it. We have a half court, but the basket, this is the old picture, but the basket thing's broken now. But the promenade needs to get through. We need to get an accessible playground here and extend the promenade through towards what was Kelly School. We need to continue to prune trees. That's taken some time ago. Here's Elm Park in Groveland, if you know it. Now, if Groveland can do this and trim their trees up and get that look, maybe Newburyport might just, you think? There's a difference between the elm that they had, that they treated, and they had the money to treat all of them, and what we have with these Chinese elms, which I don't think can ever grow to this kind of height. But there are varieties now, 3 of them, that are highly resistant that can get the height. We're starting to use those. So there's the proof the road is there. From the earliest picture, the roadway's on the right. And we need to get the Taggart Fountain back. We don't want it in the middle of the street. It was hit before, but we need to put it at the end of the alley. We have $600,000 raised for this effort, so we have the money, we think. We're going to put an RFP out for engineering this winter or fall, and then we need to coordinate this with the Frog Pond. If the city council approves it, we have to be sure the grading that's done here is done in concert with the grading of the bigger project. Lastly, these 2 men said that this should have a walkway like that. And here is Surecliff coming in and saying, you need to get this in. I've tried to do it. Elliott's plan has not been carried out. Noticeably the broad walk. It's not been constructed, it's greatly needed. I show it in full and of course, and there's what it was when we started. And this is a problem, it doesn't connect. So people coming up here from High Street, going northbound generally, Andrea, would have 21 steps to get up to a walkway that turned left. Now, this is my drawing. You bring it in and you put the circle in here that they've both proposed. And you tie it with this so you have a joint. There's a cannon here. And then this is yet to go. This isn't done. So that exists now. So you can do the whole walk. Put that out. So the only thing that's remaining, Frog Pond, we just need the vote of the city council. We have the engineering documents are funded. We have the construction management funded. We need to maintain a low yearly expense, and the playground engineering and construction, all funded. This is the tree planting plan, the ones in circles we're going to put in. There's 74 trees will be part of this. They're not all funded yet, some are. So then, troublemaker here says to me,
What, me?
yes. She said, well, if you don't get this approved, what's the downside? And I think the downside is it's an opportunity missed. This is all presented after 5 years, all done, all approved except one vote. No taxpayer money going into this. And we keep forgetting about the importance of Bartlett Mall. Then it gets brought back into focus. Brought back by the MIA and Eliot, brought back twice by Shercliffe, brought back by Walker Kunstling, brought back by Viney and the Bartlett Mall Commission. And I'm just, can we trust that our sick pond will remain docile? I mean, we're playing with fire here. A child easily could get, let our generation solve it and perfect the common throughout history. And we could have that if we get the courthouse and the rest. Can you make that go? Now I'm done. So this is. So this is 1976. Look at the people that are Bartlett now. They're a little older now. Did it show that early part? I missed that early part with that showed the mall itself. Now that. Now that. Look at the people. Back then, you could use the water. When I came here in '87, people did this still. We could still. You don't dare do that now.
Is that really it, Chuck? Are you sure?
Yeah, there's.
Are you sure? I'm
There's
poised.
one touch of the next movie. It's about 20 seconds.
One more.
From the same time, this one. Now it shows the courthouse as it is, but that's okay. You have the sound?
No.
Oh dear. Okay. Oh, the sound is important. Okay, it is what it is.
I can sing a little something. Which helps.
Well, here he's talking about the fact that most towns have lost their history, and that's why you don't know your neighbor anymore, and the damage that the automobile has done to our society. And that what we need to think about and what is important is our relationship to each other, the community that we have, the ties that we have. That's the thing we cannot lose. And then the beauty of such places, the history of them, is what pulls us together and acts as a civilized society. And this is the first one of these movies this young man made, and he chose our community. So, okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think you will all, I think you will all agree that that was more than worth the technology hiccups and the wait. Thank you so much. That is, I don't think any of us will ever quite look at that building or the mall quite the same ever again. So with that, I will say we are going to bring Chuck back for sure to give us the down and dirty on several other particular aspects of this, because there's so much more to tell, and he is such a gem in this community and such a value to us all. So thank you very much for coming, and safe travels home. And thank you, Chuck Santos.
And 6 hours.
Oh, yeah. So I gotta watch my wife.
Sure.
Matter of fact, I should have this song.
I just wanted to say I am
Thank you. No, my wife. No, I don't. there's so much more. There's, I only have 4,000. But the, thank you, Lord.